Rookie talent in the Overwatch League is something to always get excited about. The young guys are always the hungriest and have the most to prove out there. Whether you're trying to push your team to a new level or rebuild and find your identity, fresh young talent has been a really important part of just about every Overwatch League franchise over the years. Some of which have been extremely dominant and have looked anything but a rookie player, and they've firmly placed themselves within Overwatch League history. And now that we have 4 seasons worth of them to consider, it's about time that we take a trip down memory lane and select the best of the best. Today I present to you my top 15 greatest rookie seasons in Overwatch League history. To start off, here's a couple of honorable mentions. Some guys that just ended up missing the cut for me include Lee J. Gunn, Gushue, Yaki, Shy, FD God, Zest, MN3, Kai, and many, many more. As for the guys who did make the cut, we're going to start with Krong at number 15. In a sort of one-season wonder type of thing, Krong absolutely exploded onto the scene to help the Guangzhou Charge become a deadly contender in APAC. As a promising talent out of O2 Blast, Krong had a ton of potential as a consistent, all-around threat at the off-tank position. But considering how good Hoppa was for this Charge team just 1 year prior, he had some pretty big shoes to fill. And yet, when he came in and assumed that starting role, he played even better than Hoppa could ever dream of. Krong was decimating the competition left and right, and he showed off one of the deadliest Sigmas in League history to this day. He was very consistent throughout his entire time that year, and he largely carried the Charge frontline and gave them the stability they needed to win their first and only tournament in franchise history. Statistically, he put up one of the most efficient seasons you'll ever come across as a tank player, and he even got nominated as an MVP candidate for his efforts. Krong rightfully takes a place on this list for coming in and immediately making the Charge a lot better. Number 14. Janu. He's in a pretty similar boat to Krong. He came in for a season as this one-season wonder and absolutely dominated before disappearing from existence. In that rookie season he had, alongside his runaway comrades, he played like an absolute madman. He was arguably the most consistent D.Va player in the league in 2019, and honestly had one of the most dominant seasons by a tank player ever. The low death count, the high kill contribution, the big bombs, the timely defense matrices, it all seemed perfect. Too perfect. To make plays while protecting his amazing backline and also taking care of aggressive players like Bumper and Hoxel does not get nearly enough attention. Janu had easily the hardest job on his team, but he did it to absolute perfection. How a man can literally be everywhere at once is beyond me. It's one of the greatest performances statistically I have ever seen, and the man even got an MVP nomination for playing out of his freaking mind. With that kind of resume and recognition and explosion onto the scene, he just had to make the cut. And at number 13, we have Chio, a recent entry on this list. Chio worked his butt off on many amazing Korean contenders teams over the years and just had so much talent to offer, so it was clear that he could make a difference if given a chance. And it just so happens that the Dallas Fuel were in desperate need of an upgrade at the main support position. And honestly, Chio came in right away and clearly showed that he was one of their big missing pieces. He's definitely one of the big reasons why Dallas were able to win it all, and it says a lot to come in and do such a thing as a rookie, and it helps that he had one of the best individual years as a main support we've ever seen. Despite being a young first-year player, he looked like a composed veteran out there on Lucio and Brigitte. He immediately went out there and became one half of the best backline in Overwatch, and he even won a role star for his efforts. Chio put a lot of big names in their place at his position, and he deserves a lot of credit for helping the Dallas Fuel end up being what they were. Speaking of the Dallas backline, the 12 spot is occupied by Fielder. Now, unlike a lot of other guys on this list, Fielder didn't receive any real honors or accolades in his rookie year. However, what he managed to pull off as a late season acquisition by the Paris Eternal is equally as impressive. I don't think people understand that he played at a superstar level with so many different factors working against him. Imagine adjusting to a mixed roster for the first time while playing on the other side of the world with people you've never played with before on 2 100 ping and still being a top player. He had literally every single reason to fail, and he popped off like no tomorrow. The nasty plays that this guy was hitting with Ana on 200 ping make you think that this guy is absolutely not human. When you have that much of an impact on the team around you and are able to be a leader as a rookie, you deserve to be talked about in a high regard like this, regardless of if you got no accolades or not. Sticking with 2020 Paris rookies, at number 11 is gonna be Hanbin. This man was not a role star or even an MVP nomination like Krong or Janu, but some people are going to argue that his level of play was even greater than those two, and, well, I agree. The problem was that Tank was just so incredibly stacked in 2020 that it was hard to give Hanbin the recognition. Because by all accounts, even though he didn't get any of those accolades, Hanbin was superstar level with arguably even more potential and flexibility than the guys I named before him on this list. It's one thing to be a league leader on one hero and be dominant, but it's a totally different story when you are one of the best, both statistically and visibly, on 2 to 3, because that's what Hanbin was doing. One of the league's most dominant divas and Sigmas for sure, and even Azaria was pretty fire back in Season 3. He boosted that Paris tank line so much that it's really not even a laughing matter. The plays he set up, the consistency, the positioning, it was a work of art. He was top 2 or better in all damage stats across the board amongst tank players that year, and he really helped keep his team in the game no matter what the circumstance. Just a very important player in keeping pressure on the enemy front line and allowing for those exciting Paris DPS to do their thing. Hanbin was arguably a top 3 off-tank in the game his rookie year when the competition at his position was quite possibly at its peak. Dude is built absolutely different, and he had one of the great seasons that we'll ever see. Breaking into the top 10 is Lip. In what was perhaps the most out-of-nowhere dominant rookie showing, Lip elevated the Dragons' DPS line from great to excellent. He was mad slept on coming into this season, and very quickly other teams realized that they made a horrible mistake, because Lip came in and put all of them in their place. Lip was a machine back then. The 6-foot gaming warlord was dominating left and right, and he did so across a good bit of the hit scan role, with him being particularly dominant on Sombra and Ashe. His Sombra was actually a very important aspect of Shanghai's game plan, and it helped them win a lot of tough games down the stretch. The young superstar did a lot to make this Dragons team a contender, and he was recognized for his efforts with a Role Star Award. And the fact that this was his worst season as a pro is so stupid. It wasn't enough to win a title that year or anything, but it definitely was enough for the Dragons to realize they had a true championship caliber, young, superstar player to build around. Lip did so much while practically being unheard of beforehand, so he absolutely grabs a spot pretty easily on this list. Number 9. Exy. Another guy who we can only sit there and wonder, what if? Cause man, Exy was insane in his rookie year. While he was by no means the most exciting player coming out of Helmet Mystic joining the Eternal that year, Exy came in and established himself as the guy who made Paris truly terrifying. And what's crazy is he did it in 2 bursts. First was the start of the season, and then around the Summer Showdown up until around the end of the Countdown Cup after taking some time off to deal with some health issues. And throughout all of those moments, he was keeping up with or clearly diffing top tier hitscan players in the league. And the fact that he outplayed a prime Carpe in the Summer Showdown finals is ridiculous. Exy missed time, but still got nominated as an MVP candidate in 2020. You gotta have a pretty huge impact to be in that kind of discussion under those circumstances, as usually in professional sports, when you miss time, that kind of thing goes against you and takes your name right out of the hat. He was just really good from start to finish in his one and only full season as a starter. His potential is amongst some of the highest we have ever seen from a first-year player. Number 8. Ans. It's pretty hard to go against good old Ans. The reasoning he makes it here is rather simple, I'd say. In 2020, nobody really knew who he was, just like with Lip. The Shock randomly picked him up, and the expectations from the general public were wildly low for him. But almost immediately, he came out of the gate swinging as one of the fastest developing players of all time and one of the most deadly hitscan/sniper specialists ever. The man was scary good on Widow, as well as Ashe and a few other things, and ultimately he was able to take home a Role Star Award in his rookie season for being so ridiculously explosive. Additionally, he played a very important role in the Shock taking home their second straight Grand Finals title, and is arguably the best Widowmaker in League history. Ants accomplished a ridiculous amount in just one season as a rookie, and he absolutely gets the nod for the extreme dominance that he showcased. Locking up the number 7 slot is Violet. Yeah, Violet had to make it here at some point. The 2019 Shock were pretty loaded. Nobody can deny that. But Violet was a true X factor that made them so much more terrifying. The moment that he took the helm away from Sleepiest, the starter, he never looked back. And for good reason, right? The level of improvement that he showed so quickly is pretty frightening. His discipline quickly caught up to his unreal mechanics as he quite easily became a rival of Jonek and Twilight while being in the conversation for number 1 flex support in 2019. Between being arguably the top Zen and Moira at the time, it was pretty hard for anybody else to top him. He absolutely positively exploded onto the scene and leaped past numerous all-time greats at his position in a matter of months. Sometimes people underestimate how important Violet's rookie season really was to the Shock. He showed up whenever his team needed him to, especially in the big games. I mean, just think about what he did in the Stage 2 title match, and their playoff run in general. It's more than enough evidence to suggest he was a very important piece of their championship team. If it weren't for his quick improvement and dominant rookie year, quite frankly, I don't know if the Shock make it as far as they do. Number 6. alexyOWL. Ah yes, the first ever Rookie of the Year. No list would be complete without him. While heavily contested and up for debate on who should have won it, nobody can deny how excellent alexyOWL truly was as a rookie in 2019. Considering his confidence and how well he played in the past against many of his rivals in the Overwatch League, there was very little doubt that alexyOWL would be great. He was already a household name, and he just picked up where he left off, basically. And that's what makes his rookie year so damn impressive. He completely lived up to all expectations as quite arguably the league's best flex DPS. The man could literally do no wrong. As strong as Vancouver were as a team, and trust me, they were insane, alexyOWL's individual value was amongst the strongest in the league. And it all comes down to being the best Brig during the GOATS era, hands down, as well as arguably the best Doomfist in the playoffs to some people. He was literally the best at 2 of the biggest meta heroes of the year for DPS players. Big plays and crazy stats were a norm for this guy, and getting that Rookie of the Year and Role Star privilege just puts the cherry on top of one of the best rookie seasons of all time. Moving into the beginning of the top 5 is alexyOWL's teammate, Twilight. Now, it may seem a little weird to have Twilight over the guy who won Rookie of the Year, but in all honesty, Twilight's level of play in my eyes, and being arguably the best flex support in the league during Season 2, was more impressive. He was just more well-rounded than both Jonek and Violet were, thanks to his amazing Zen and godlike Ana play. But aside from that, he was able to shine on a team full of star players and made a bunch of big plays while consistently having to keep an eye out for his crazy main tank partner, Bumper. It's very impressive to play so well while somehow keeping everybody alive. Twilight juggled a lot of responsibilities on this Vancouver team, while still arguably being the most important member of their roster. How I see it is he stood out to the same degree as alexyOWL while doing a more difficult job. As the league's top support, a Role Star, and an MVP candidate, it's hard not to acknowledge Twilight as one of the best rookies of all time. Number 4. Alarm. The legend of the game came in as a player with very high status, thanks to his time on Fusion University, but with a lot of competition around him to prove himself. Jonek, Twilight, Violet, Shu, etc. We're talking well-established, dominant flex supports. And yet, Alarm went out there and fully fulfilled his potential to the maximum. He was basically known as a mini Jonek of sorts during the Contenders days, and he showed us exactly why. It's crazy how he literally met every ounce of potential that was labeled on him. All the pressure, all the expectations. He met it fully and then some. He was literally life-changing to the Philly Fusion when he joined. He completely transformed the stability and consistency of that team and helped them form one of the deadliest backlines in league history. the Fusion finally felt consistent for the first time ever, and arguably the only time ever, and it's in large thanks to his individual efforts. He really helped boost the tank line. I think that Fury and Sato really fulfilled their potential thanks to him, and he did it all while making a ton of amazing plays himself. An argument can be made that he was the best flex support in the world in his rookie year with how well-rounded, dangerous, and intelligently he played the game. Alarm even pulled in Rookie of the Year over guys like Sparkle and Exy that year, and was also in the MVP conversation for lifting the Fusion to heights they've never seen before. And rightfully so, the Rookie of the Year award is now named after him to forever remember his legend. We miss you a lot, Alarm. Rest in peace, man. Kicking off the top 3 will be Pelican. Maybe a hot take in some people's eyes to have Pelly this high, but he had easily one of the greatest individual carries as a rookie of all time. The Reign could never really get over the hump before him, and they never were able to after as well. They just had such little playoff and tournament success with every year that he was not on this team. 2021 was the one year the Reign were truly consistent from start to finish and were an actual title contender. The Reign never had nearly as much relevance throughout any season than they did when Pelican was leading the way. It's actually crazy how much more damage they could do when putting all of their resources into him. As a rookie, he was easily, I mean quite easily, one of the best players in the entire league, and definitely the league's top Echo and Mei player and one of the best flex DPS. Every strat Atlanta came up with and their ability to succeed all revolved around him, and the results speak for itself. The one time they had a guy like Pelican on their roster, the Reign consistently won playoff and tournament matches and made it to the grand finals. With how hard he carried the Atlanta Reign, he of course got an MVP nomination, and probably the second most decisive Rookie of the Year victory, only behind Proper. Pelican played at an even higher level than his potential suggested by helping the Reign overachieve massively. It's something that we just can't overlook. From a true value perspective, Pelican is extremely difficult to beat. But someone who does slightly edge him out in my eyes is Sparkle at number 2. Sparkle in every sense lived up to the hype as a rookie. He was seen as a once-in-a-lifetime talent with monster potential. Everybody was in a bidding war for this guy. Easily one of the most hyped up prospects in the history of Overwatch, and he managed to live up to every ounce of potential and expectations without a doubt. I mean, the moment that he turned 18 and was eligible to play, he helped the Paris Eternal become a different animal. If you want to talk about a guy who transformed a team into something terrifying, he's your man. That stretch from like the beginning of the Summer Showdown through the Countdown Cup is some of the most dominant Overwatch that has ever been put on display. Sparkle in a hard Genji meta was a match made in heaven, and I think all the damage that he did on a signature hero is ultimately the reason that the Paris Eternal were able to get their record so much better. And of course, he really built his legend by helping the Eternal go on one of the most improbable tournament runs in League history, while also making one of the greatest individual plays in League history against the Shock. He cemented his legacy and his name in the history books with his iconic play, and arguably the greatest Genji in Overwatch League history. The fact that he lived up to all of that hype and potential is what really does it. He had so much pressure on him to perform and be that guy, and he did it so easily. One of the coolest rookie campaigns ever, hands down. But that's enough about Sparkle, you get the idea. Because now, as we move on to number 1, we quite obviously have Proper. I mean, no duh, right? What Proper did in 2022 was something never seen before by a rookie player, and we likely won't see it ever again. Forget about being the league's best rookie. He was the league's best player. He just did so much as a first-year player, it's actually unfair. Proper shattered records left and right, with the big achievement, of course, being the Triple Crown, where he won the MVP, a Role Star, and Rookie of the Year in the same season. That has never been done before, and there's a good chance that it will never happen again. And what's funny is that he did a lot of other things that may not happen again either. Statistically, he is the only player in League history to hit 2,000 plus final blows and 4,000 plus eliminations in one season. Going beyond the stats, he also of course brought the Shock to one of the best records in the league, a grand finals appearance, arguably being the league's best player, and was elite in every single meta from beginning to end. I don't know if I've ever seen an individual mean more to a team than Proper. Remember how I said Sparkle lived up to all of the hype and expectations as a prospect? Well, Proper did it to an even greater extent, to the point where he probably did even more than people thought he would. He became the exact player that people dreamed he could be, and he did it all in his first year as a pro. What Proper did simply transcends rookie talent. His 2022 performance might be the greatest individual season by a player ever. He just accomplished so much in so little time while being so young and keeping the shock in all of these big games. Nobody else really compares, which is why Proper quite easily takes home the #1 spot on this list. And there you go. That is my top 15 rookie players in Overwatch League history. Do you agree with this list, or would you make some changes? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and make sure to leave one of your own lists too. I'd love to read what you think. And if you enjoyed the video, and you want more content just like this, be sure to give this video a like, and subscribe to my channel if you're new. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.